Hi, everybody. Welcome along to our small but discreet press conference. Well, much as we try to avoid talking about the American president, or some of us do anyway, there's no avoiding him. And on April the 16th, Japan's trade negotiator, Ryosei Akazawa, wore a MAGA cap when he presented Donald Trump with a gold-covered piggy bank, which, according to Reuters, was made in China. Akazawa is set to depart for Washington for a second round of negotiations next week. In the 3 months since he has taken office, President Trump's wild policy gyrations have perplexed and infuriated America's allies. It's no secret that today's guest, Shinji Oguma-san, disagrees with the current strategy of the Japanese government. In comments made during a parliamentary committee hearing this month, he likened America to a delinquent kid extorting someone. He questioned if it was safe for serious people to go and negotiate with Trump, and he urged the Japanese government, to resist his demands. It's like a mugging, he said. If you give money to people who are going to mug you, they will come back to mug you again. The comments have made Oguma-san a viral online star, but will the Japanese government listen to him? Japan recorded a trade surplus of 9 trillion yen, that's $63 billion, with the US for the last fiscal year. Some commentators predict that Akazawa-san will or may agree to import more rice, possibly more soybeans, more corn, probably not more cars. Today, Oguma-san is going to elaborate on his comments and discuss the sort of general relationship between America and Japan, the trade relationship that is. And he just let it slip while we were in the ante-room that he is a big fan of muscle cars, American muscle cars. So he's not against actual American cars. よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。よろしいですかね。はい。皆さんこんにちは。衆議院議員の小熊慎司です。まずは今日このような機会を与えていただいた FCCJ の皆様に感謝を申し上げる次第であります。
Good afternoon. My name is Shinji Oguma, and I am a member of the House of Representatives. First of all, please let me thank the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan, FCCJ, for this opportunity today.
また私は福島県人でもありますので、この場をお借りして、世界の皆様、そして各国政府に14年前の大震災の際にご支援いただいたことを福島県民の一人として御礼申し上げます。
And I am from Fukushima Prefecture, so as a person from Fukushima Prefecture, I would like to thank governments and countries all around the world for the support they provided us 14 years ago on the time of the earthquake and disaster.
今月16日の外務委員会での私の質疑は、国内では産経新聞などで取り上げられただけでしたけれども、海外では広く取り上げていただいていることに驚くと同時に感謝を申し上げるところです。
My question at the House of Representatives Committee on Foreign Affairs on April 16th was only reported domestically in media such as the Sankei newspaper. However, I was both surprised and grateful to see how widely it has been reported overseas.
また一方で、真意とは別に恐喝者と訳されることを一例として、私の発言が少々大げさな訳し方をされている箇所がいくつかあるとの印象も持ちました。
At the same time, I also got the impression that my remarks have been slightly exaggerated beyond my real intentions in some parts of the translation, for example, in the use of the word extortionists.
私の意図するところは、大好きな映画の一つでもあるバック・トゥ・ザ・フューチャーの登場人物のビフ・タンネンを思い浮かべ、トランプ大統領の関税政策はティーネージ・ブリューイングだとのニュアンスで発言をしたものです。
The meaning that I intended to convey was, I was thinking of a character in one of my favorite films, Back to the Future, the character Biff Tannen, and the nuance I intended to convey was to liken President Trump's tariff policy to a kind of teenage bullying.
打足ですけれども、私の質疑をネット配信で見ていた高校の恩師からは、質疑の内容は褒めていただきましたけれども、言葉の表現ぶりは少々品のないものであったというメッセージもいただいたところです。
And as an aside, please let me also add that a former mentor of mine from my high school days saw my speech on the internet and contacted me. And while he praised me for the actual content of my speech, he also told me that my choice of words was in some places rather crude.
あと妻から言われたのはちょっと力が入りすぎてたのか、今日と同じタイプのワイシャツを着ていたんですけども、このスナップボタンが外れてしまっていて、全世界にちょっとだらしのない格好を晒したことを妻からすごく怒られました。
And actually, my wife also told me, I don't know if I was just so passionate at the time, but the top button on my shirt had come undone. And so she said I looked like I wasn't dressed properly in front of the whole world.
また私は小学生の頃、アメリカのドラマである大草原の小さな家を見て感銘を受け、理想の家族像を発見しました。
Also, when I was in elementary school, I watched the US TV drama Little House on the Prairie, and it made a strong impression on me, and it was where I discovered the kind of image of what an ideal family could be.
さらに鑑賞したアメリカ映画はこれまで1000作品を超えています。
And I have watched more than 1,000 American films so far.
またエルビスや JB の熱狂的なファンでもあり、アメリカ文化を大いに親しむ一人でもあります。
And I'm a big fan of Elvis and JB, and I enjoy a lot of American culture.
あれ、JB は皆さん分かりますかね？
Does everyone know who JB is?
ジャック・バウアーでもジェイソン・ボーンでもなくジェームス・ブラウンです。
It's not Jack Bond, Johnson Bauer, it's James...
ジェームス・ブラウン。
James Brown.
さらに私は20数年前にマッスルカーをレンタルして西海岸から東海岸まで50日間アメリカを旅しました。そしてアメリカの人々や自然の偉大さと素晴らしさを実感しました。
Furthermore, 20 years ago, I rented a muscle car and did a 50-day road trip from the west coast to the east coast. And at that time, I experienced how wonderful the nature and the people of America are.
多くのアメリカの方々に歓迎をしていただきましたけれども、50日間旅をするのはクレイジーだと言われました。
And lots of the American people that I met were very welcoming to me, but they also told me I was crazy for doing a 50-day road trip.
しかしながら今現在、日本にとって重要な国の一つであり、唯一の同盟国であるアメリカが、そしてまた私の憧れの国であるアメリカが、世界に混乱を生じさせていることは至極残念なことです。
However, now I feel it is an extreme shame that the US, which is a very important country for Japan, Japan's only ally country, the America which I am such a fan of, is creating such turmoil all around the world.
トランプ大統領の関税政策は、貿易赤字の削減、国内製造業の復活、米ドル覇権の維持などの複数の目標が相互に矛盾していて、世界経済のみならず、アメリカ経済自身にも悪影響を及ぼしています。
The various objectives of President Trump's tariff policies, such as reducing the trade deficit, bringing manufacturing back to the United States, and maintaining the dominance of the US dollar, these are in contradiction with each other and are having a negative effect not only on the world economy, but also on the economy of the United States itself.
関税による輸入抑制はドル需要を減らし、ドル覇権を弱体化させる可能性があります。一方でトランプ大統領はドル覇権の維持を強調しており、貿易赤字削減とドル覇権の維持は矛盾をしてしまいます。
Suppressing imports through trade tariffs will reduce demand for the US dollar and has the potential to weaken the US dollar's position as the world's dominant currency. While President Trump emphasizes the importance of maintaining the supremacy of the dollar, the objectives of reducing the trade deficit and maintaining the supremacy of the dollar are in contradiction with each other.
トランプ関税は輸入品価格を上昇させ、アメリカの消費者や企業の負担が増加することは明らかです。この関税政策がアメリカの GDP を約 8% 縮小させ、中間所得世帯に生涯で 5.8 万ドルの損失をもたらすという予測もあります。
It is clear that Trump's tariffs will increase the price of imported goods and increase the burden on US consumers and businesses. It is even predicted that this tariff policy could cause America's GDP to shrink by approximately 8% and cause middle-income households a total loss of $58,000 over a lifetime.
トランプ大統領はアメリカファーストを掲げて、労働者を支援すると主張していますけれども、関税による物価上昇は低中所得者層の生活を直撃して、経済成長は阻害をされます。
President Trump talks of America first and says that he supports the working people. However, an increase in prices caused by higher import tariffs will directly impact the lives of low to medium income households and will impede economic growth.
トランプ大統領は関税を政府収入源として活用し、所得税の代替を目論んでいますけれども、関税が国内生産を促し、輸入が減少すれば、関税収入は減少します。
President Trump intends to use import tariffs as an income source for the government and as an alternative for income tax. However, if the tariffs succeed in encouraging domestic production and reducing the amount of imports, this income from tariffs will also decrease.
トランプ大統領の貿易赤字削減、製造業の復活という目標は理解はしますけれども、トランプ関税ではこれを達成できません。
I understand President Trump's objectives of cutting the trade deficit and revitalizing the manufacturing sector. However, these cannot be achieved with Trump's tariffs.
言葉はまた悪いかもしれませんけれども、白チュームに等しいです。デイドリーム。
So maybe I'm not choosing exactly the right words, but it's almost like a daydream, a pipe dream.
トランプ大統領が守ろうとしているアメリカドルの世界支配はアメリカの最大の強みの一つです。
The US dollar's global dominance that President Trump is trying to protect is the US's most significant strength.
関税で輸入を減らせば諸外国のドル需要が減り、ブリックス諸国が脱ドル化を加速化させる危険性もあります。これでは中国やロシアの思うツボです。
If imports are cut due to these tariffs, the demand for the dollar from foreign countries will decrease, and this risks accelerating de-dollarization by BRICS countries. This is exactly what China and Russia want.
そしてまたトランプ大統領は同盟国がアメリカに安全保障に頼っている弱みにつけ込んで、関税の要求をしてくることは、節度ある大国の交渉ではなく、ティーンエイジブリューイングであり、ロシアに妥協してウクライナに厳しい停戦交渉をしているのもティーンエイジブリューイングです。
President Trump's tactic of demanding higher tariffs by taking advantage of the vulnerability of allied countries that rely on the US for security is not the sort of negotiation that you'd expect from a major power acting with decency, but rather it's a form of teenage bullying. Similarly, compromising with Russia while engaging in tough ceasefire negotiations with Ukraine is also akin to teenage bullying.
さらに、グローバルサウスへの援助を削減することも中国やロシアを利するだけで馬鹿げています。
In addition, cutting aid to the global south is only going to benefit China and Russia and is deeply misguided.
世界各国は連携してティーンエイジブリーには妥協せず、毅然とした態度で臨まなければなりません。
Countries around the world need to cooperate to not give in the face of teenage bullying and need to approach the situation with a resolute stance.
今、トランプ政権に求められるのは節度です。
What we need from the Trump administration now is decency.
節度とは取引ではない、策略でも金儲けでも人を騙すペテンでもありません。
Decency is not a deal, it's not a tactic, it's not about making money, it's not about tricking people.
節度とは大草原の小さな家の中にも描かれていたように、ささやかな生活の中に自然に生え育つ魂です。
Decency is a spirit that is born and grows naturally within the small details of everyday life, as is depicted in the little house on the prairie.
そしてその節度は私たちの心の一部です。
And that decency is in our bones.
誰もトランプ大統領の顔色を伺って本当のことを言わないのは、トランプ大統領を裸の王様にしていくのに等しいです。
If everybody tiptoes on eggshells, trying to make sure they don't displease President Trump and therefore not saying the truth, then this would be the same as treating him like the emperor in the emperor's new clothes.
私の外務委員会での発言は、アンデルセンの優れた童話の一つでもある、この裸の王様の子供のセリフと同じで、ティーンエイジブルーに対して、ただシンプルに、あなたは裸だと本当のことを言ったまでです。
My speech at the Foreign Affairs Committee is the same as the words of the child in Hans Christian Andersen's wonderful children's book, The Emperor's New Clothes. It was simply me telling the teenage bully the truth, telling him that he hasn't got any clothes on.
トランプ大統領も聡明な方だと思います。また優秀なスタッフがたくさんついているので、関税政策への矛盾にはもう気づいているはずです。そして、いつ上げた拳を下ろすかを今現時点では探っているというふうに私は理解をします。
I believe President Trump is an intelligent person and he has lots of very competent staff. So I believe that he is already aware of the contradictions in his tariff policies. I think he is probably now looking for the right opportunity to lower his raised fist.
今後速やかにトランプ大統領がリーダーシップを発揮して節度を取り戻すことを期待しています。
Going forward, I hope that President Trump can quickly demonstrate his leadership and regain decency.
日本政府やまた与党が本当のことを言えないので、野党の私が本当のことを話させていただきました。
And because the Japanese government and the ruling party are unable to do so, I, as a member of the opposition, have taken it upon myself to speak the truth.
ご清聴ありがとうございました。I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I'm not sure anybody in the room wants to think about a naked Donald Trump, but thank you for planting the image. I just checked, actually, because I remembered that the Biff Tannen character in Back to the Future is actually based on Donald Trump, right? The writer, Bob Gale, said that at some point. So it sounds like you love America, but you're a critical friend of America. That's my take. Albags, the first question. Do you think that America can return to where it was before Donald Trump was in power?
トランプが政権を取る前の状態に戻ることはできると思いますか
Or is something broken?
何かもう永久的に壊れてしまったところがあるのでしょうか。
いや、アメリカには優秀な方々が多くいるので、レジリエンスはあると思いますから、十分に戻ると思いますし、なるべく早くやった方が我々も世界中も傷つかないし、アメリカ自身も傷つくことは少なくなると思います。
No, I think it can. I believe there are many very competent people and it's resilient. So yes, it can. And the quicker it can, the less damage will be done for the world and for America itself.
Okay, thank you. Right, well, we have quite a few online questions lined up. I'll just scan the room. If you'd like to ask a question, can you raise your hand? And if you come to the mic, can you let us know who you are? While we wait, let me ask. This is a question from Rocky Swift of Reuters News. Broadly speaking, the Japanese public still has a positive view of the US. So going into the upper house elections, which are in July, is that right? How will you explain this critical stance of the US in your outreach to voters?
一般的に日本の国民は未だアメリカに対してポジティブな見方を持っています。そうだとしますと、次の参議院選挙に向けて有権者に対してアメリカに対するその批判的なスタンスはどう説明していく予定ですか。
私も選挙区でいろんな方と話しますけれども、アメリカは唯一の同盟国ですから、アメリカと協調関係を結んでいくことは、これは当然のことだと思いますけれども、トランプさんがやっていることはやっぱり常識を逸脱しているので、友達だからこそ、同盟国だからこそ、正しいことはきちっと伝えなきゃいけないし、この童話のように裸の王様ですから、これはちゃんと間違いを指摘をすることは別に何の問題もないと思います。
I talk to many people in my constituency, and yes, America is our ally, and it's important to have a harmonious relationship with the US, and this is what I talk about with my constituents. But at the same time, what Trump is doing, it has gone beyond the realm of common sense, and so because they are an ally, because they are a friend, it is also important to tell them the truth. As I said, it's like the emperor in the emperor's new clothes. If there's a mistake, there's nothing wrong with telling them the truth and telling them where the mistake is.
Why do you think it's so hard for people, if that's the case, in the government or closer to power, to call him out then? And you mentioned in your introduction that most of the media has ignored your comments in Japan. you said only the Sankei of the major media had covered your comments. Why is that?
そうだとしますと、なぜ政府や野党はなかなかそういう発言ができないのでしょうか。例えばあと日本国内のメディアでは産経新聞だけがスピーチを取り上げたということだったんですけども、なぜでしょうか。
政府は、やっぱり慎重な態度を取るので、言葉を選んでいるというふうに私は思っていますし、真面目すぎる政府のスタッフ、石破政権のスタッフは真面目すぎるので慎重になりすぎてるので、もっとトランプさんのケミストリーに近づいてやった方が受けると思いますけれども、で日本のメディアが反応しなかったのは、私の発言は別に特別なことではなくて、普通の人が思っている印象をただ私は代弁しただけですから、今日は報道特集さん来てますけども、それはこの海外でこういう多分騒ぎになってるから、どういうことなんだろうということで取材に来てるんだって、日本で私の発言がトリッキーなものだったんではないというのは、広く国民の中でもそう思ってるからこそ、私の発言が別に目立たなかったというふうに私は理解しています。
So I think for the government, they are being cautious, therefore they are choosing their words more. There are also people within the Ishiba administration who are very serious, and so they are going about this very seriously. But I think if we can get a little bit closer to something like Trump's own chemistry, then it would work better. And in regards to why the media didn't report my speech within Japan, it's because I believe that what I was saying wasn't anything particularly special within Japan. I was just speaking what a lot of people, normal people within Japan, were thinking. And so today we have some Japanese media here, but that is because they're interested in seeing why it was why it's been so widely reported overseas. So I think within Japan, what I said was not seen as something that was tricky for the Japanese people.
Thank you. Just scanning the room. If you have a question, just raise your hand. Don't be shy. Dozo.
すみません、今、小野さんから言及があった、TBS 報道特集の草壁と申します。よろしくお願いします。
My name is Kusakabe from the TBS, as Mr. Oguma just mentioned.
先生が今言った通りです。なぜ先生のですね、発言がこれほど海外で注意を引いたというか、関心が集まったか、その点、先生、どう分析しますか。
So as you said, why was your words, your speech, got so much attention overseas? Why do you think this is?
いろんなそのコメントもその YouTube とかニュースの報道の中のいろんな視聴者のコメントもちょっと見たんですけれども、おとなしい日本人がここまで言うのかっていう反応だったので、いやいや日本人みんながただ黙ってるんじゃなくて、やっぱりこれは侍の国ですから言うべきことは言うっていうのが日本人で、その世界の人のステレオタイプな日本人感にびっくりしていました。
Well, yes, I was looking at the comments from readers on YouTube and online news, and lots of people are saying, oh, Japanese people are so reserved, but this person's really speaking out. But it's not that, not all Japanese people are very reserved. There is maybe a stereotype there, but it's also the country of the samurai, and what needs to be said should be said.
小熊さんの話の中では、恩師と奥さんの反応ありましたね。政党の仲間、あるいは政府、もしかしたらアメリカ大使館から何か反応とかなかったですか。
So in your comments, you mentioned you got some comments from your high school mentor and your wife, but did you also receive any comments from people in the government, within your own party, or maybe from the US embassy?
特段なかったですし、外務委員会でのその発言したときには、委員のメンバーはみんな笑ってうなずいてました。
I didn't get any specific comments, and when I actually made the comments during the committee, the members of the committee were, laughing and nodding with me.
小熊さんはその委員会の中でもですね、赤澤大臣真面目すぎるというようなことを言ってましたね。で、その赤澤さんが、ホワイトハウスでマンガの赤い帽子をかぶった、あれについてはどう思いますか。
So during the committee, you said that Minister Akazawa is too serious. What do you think about him wearing the red MAGA cap when he went to the White House?
Don't forget the gold-plated piggy bank.
あと金箔の貯金箱もプレゼントされたそうですね。
脈々ですね。
中国製のね。
中国製のはい。
まずプレゼントに関しては、今大阪万博やってるので持ってくのはいいけど、もっと他の伝統的な日本のお土産にすればよかったと思いました。
Regarding the present that he chose, well, I think we've got the exposition on in Osaka at the moment, so it was good to take something, but it would have been nice if it could have been something a bit more traditional from Japan.
で、赤澤さんが帽子をかぶったことに関しては、それはもらったものに関しては嬉しい気持ちを表現する意味ではかぶるのも一つの方法だと思います。
Regarding him putting the hat on, I think if you receive a gift and you are happy to receive a gift, maybe putting the hat on is one way to show that.
ただその後の他の委員会でですね、赤澤大臣直接質疑の中で私言いましたけれども、赤澤さんが意識しなくても、これはトランプさんの軍門に下ったっていうふうに印象もありますよと、そこを踏まえてやっぱかぶんなきゃいけなかったと。
But this is something that I also said directly during another committee, was that he needs to be aware of the significance of what it would mean for people to see him wearing that hat.
ただその委員会で私が発言したのは、赤澤さんが帽子かぶったのは、これは海外の人に伝わりにくい表現ですけど、関心の股くぐりだと思って今後に期待するっていうふうに言っておきました。これわからない。
はい、ありがとうございます。
後で皆さん調べてください。
So the 関心の幕くぐり, I wasn't able to interpret that.
If anybody wants to look that up while we're waiting, that'd be great. どうぞ、gentleman in the front. What was it again?
関心の股くぐり。
関心の股くぐり。
これちょっと訳しにくいですね。これなんだろう。
All right. Yeah. Scott Foster from Asia Times. First of all, we were busy listening to your interesting remarks. We didn't notice your shirt.
アジアタイムズのスコット・フォスターと申します。もうスピーチに夢中でしたので、ボタンが外れたことは全然気づきませんでした。
Yeah. Your wife and my wife have the same attitude toward things.
私の妻も同じようなことを言いそうですけど。
Okay. First of all, not only did the domestic media not report your remarks outside of the Sankei, but when the Asahi Shimbun conducted a poll on attitudes toward the negotiations with Trump and toward whether or not the U.S. could be relied upon as a defense partner, both results being quite negative for the United States, I didn't see any other publication in Japan, in English or Japanese, pick up and repeat those results. However, the South Koreans and the Chinese reported those results immediately. I would like to hear your comments about why that might be.
メディアでは、国内メディアでは産経新聞だけが小熊議員の発言を報道していて、そしてさらに朝日が世論調査で今の関税の交渉に関する日本人の世論に関する質問と、あと今後も安全保障の面でアメリカに頼り続けることができるのかどうかということに関する調査をしたところ、結構アメリカに対してネガティブな結果になりました。しかしその世論調査の結果も私が見る限りでは英語でも日本語でも日本ではその他では報道されていません。それに対して韓国と中国ではすぐにそれが報道されました。それについてはどう思いますか？
ある意味日本はアメリカに対しての思いが強い、また信頼度も本来はあったというところで、些細なことには反応しないということだと思いますし、安全保障に関しては揺らぎない信頼が国民の中にもあって、日米同盟の強固さを逆に示していると思います。
So I think there is a strong trust relationship, a strong feeling in Japan towards the United States. So there's not going to be such a large reaction to small things like that, to small things. And in terms of the security, national security, amongst the people of Japan, there is a strong feeling of trust. And, there's the US-Japan alliance, and there is a trust there, I believe.
それはスコットさんと奥さんの 愛が深いがゆえにですね、多少の口喧嘩しても夫婦関係は揺らがみませんよね。
It's like I imagine that you and your wife have a very strong trust relationship, so even if you have a small disagreement, it's not going to damage your marriage.
だから日米の関係は強固なので、多少のいざこざはその根幹を揺るがさないので、国民もそんなに反応しないんだと思います。
So I think the relationship between Japan and the US is strong as well. So even if there's small little disagreements or problems, it's not going to rock the foundation of that trust.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. 関心の全く振り Yeah, is it turn a blind eye to? Turn a blind eye to? Maybe that's what it means. I'm not a translator, but just throwing it out there. This question is from Eric Johnson of the Japan Times, and it's online. Sorry, Leo, can you just wait? Yeah. The 2024 lower house election was held just before Trump became president. At the time, the CDP's platform that your party said the party would adhere to a policy of exclusive defense, promote stable diplomatic and security policies based on the Japan-US alliance. Do you expect any changes of wording for the upper house election now that Trump is president?
2024年の衆議院選挙では、それはちょうどトランプ氏が大統領になる直前でした。その当時の立憲民主党の政策のポリシーでは、排他的防衛の政策を守って、そして安定的な外交と安全保障の政策、日本の日米同盟に基づいた外交と安全保障の政策をやっていきますということだったんですけれども、このようなこれに関する言葉遣いとか表現は次の参議院選挙に向けてトランプ氏が今大統領になったのを受けて変わっていくと思いますか？
今ちょうどマニフェストを作成していて、いくつかそのパーツごとには発表もしていますけれども、我が党はその現実的な、そして抑制的な安全保障政策を取っているので、大きくは変わらないと思います。
So we are currently in the process of making the manifesto, and some parts of it have been made public. And in the area of security, we are looking at having policies that are realistic and that are about preventative. Preventative. So I don't think it will greatly change.
Okay, thank you. Leo, you're next, are you? And then the gentleman beside you. Yep.
Thank you very much. Leo Lewis from the Financial Times with two questions. The first is whether or not he was aligned with you politically. There's been a view that the late Shinzo Abe did have a good relationship with Trump and that he represented Japan well in discussions between himself and the US president. Do you believe that the late Prime Minister Abe provided a good model for how Japan should be approaching negotiations now? Should the current leadership be attempting to emulate what Mr. Abe did with Mr. Trump?
ファイナンシャルタイムズのレオ・ルイスと申します。元総理の安倍晋三さんは、彼の政治と同意するかとは関係なく、彼はトランプ氏とは結構良好な関係を築いて、その交渉においても結構よく交渉ができたというふうな評価があったと思います。彼のそのやり方は今の現政権にとってもいいモデル、今の時に今用いるべきいいモデルなのでしょうか。その点についてどう思いますか。
フィーリングがあったというふうにも思います。ただ安倍元総理の時に作ったその日米貿易協定は、この車のところは踏み込んでなかったことも約束されてます。でもそれを保護にしてますから。ただフィーリングがあって仲良かったからという結果がもたらされたかというと、それはトランプ大統領がひっくり返すので、そのフィーリングが合うかどうかも大事ですけれども、大事なことは結果がちゃんとしてなきゃいけないので、それは安倍さんの信頼をトランプ大統領は踏みにじったと思います。
So I think there was a sense of on the level of feeling, maybe a good rapport there between the former President Abe and Trump. But when they did the trade agreements, the part where they were talking about the cars, that wasn't, they didn't go all into all the detail of that. So yes, it's good to have that good relationship on the level of the feeling, but you also need to get the results. And if you don't, get it all fixed, then Trump can go and change that afterwards. And I think Trump could go and so he could betray that trust that Abe showed him.
大体彼の恩師であるロイ・コーンという弁護士がいましたけれども、彼の記念すべき時にダイヤのカフスを送りましたけれども、後にそのダイヤのカフスは偽のダイヤのカフスだったと大変失礼なことをした人ですから、そう思って付き合っていかなきゃいけない。
So when you interact with Trump, you have to remember that he's the kind of person that when he sent diamond cuffs to the lawyer, Roy Cohn, who is someone who very much helped him on a special occasion, he sent them diamond cuffs, but it later turned out that these cuffs were fake diamonds. So this is the kind of person, you have to remember this.
My second question, you may consider this unfair to aim it at you, but since you've talked about the trustworthiness of Trump, at the moment you may have seen there's a discussion in the media, international media, about whether the US and China are currently conducting discussions over tariffs. The American president, Mr. Trump, says that they are. The Chinese are saying very clearly that they are not. So just on a straightforward question of trust, who do you believe?
ちょっとこの質問を向けるのはちょっと不公平かもしれないんですけども、この場で小熊議員はどう思うか教えてください。今までそのトランプ氏に対して信頼できるかできないかみたいな言及が少しありましたけれども、今メディアでアメリカと中国が関税の交渉をやっているのかやってないのかみたいなことが報道されています。アメリカはやっていますと言っていて、中国はやっていないと言っている。この点についてどっちが信頼できると思いますか？トランプ
僕は中国外交族なので中国の方とも交流してますけれども、中国はメンツを重んじる国でありますから、多分それは水面下では交渉していると思います。ハイレベルなのはまだだと思いますけれども、そこは中国の強がる傾向があるところも発言にありますので、多分水面下では交渉はしているはずです、というふうに私は推測します。
So because I work on foreign policy, I do also talk with people from China, and I think China has a tendency to not want to lose face. So, but I do believe that there are some negotiations going on under the water, under the surface. But they don't want to lose face. But I believe that there is some negotiation going on under the surface.
So it says, I think to answer Leah's question, you're saying you trust China. No, so you trust Trump. When he says that they are negotiating.
どちらを信頼するかというと、中国の
トランプの方ですね。
Trusting what Trump is saying, that there is negotiation going on, that it's under the surface.
Okay. Can I follow up just on the China question, because this is important. Trump presumably would like to push Japan into an economic bloc aligned against China. That's the speculation, at least, in the media. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said this month that the U.S. would seek to reach agreement with allies, and then we can approach China as a group. In other words, pulling Japan into a bloc against China. Presumably you think that's a bad idea?
これちょっと引き続き中国関係でちょっと重要なのでお尋ねしたいんですけれども、アメリカ側は貿易圏を作ってそれに中国と対抗していきたいという意図があるみたいなことがメディアで報道されています。でこの間ベセント財務長官も同盟国と一緒にグループを組んでそこで中国と交渉していきたいというふうに言ってるんですけれども、これについてはいいやり方だと思いますか？どう思いますか？
もう東西冷戦が終わった段階でブロック経済圏というのはもうなくなったというふうに私は理解をしています。そういう意味では中国対アメリカという2国間の競争の側面はありますけれども、 ぱり世界全体としてどう利益を守っていくかっていうことが重要であるので、そういう意味では WTO をしっかり守っていくっていうこと、二国間の争いにフォーカスするんではなくて、やっぱマルチラテラルでどうやっていくかっていうのが一番重要だと思います。
I think trade blocs ended after the Cold War, so maybe we do have this kind of competition between the two very large, the America and China, the large powers. But what is important is to think about the profit for the whole world, what is good for the whole world. So I believe it's important to protect the WTO and not to focus on bilateral relations between two countries, but looking at things in a multilateral way.
Thank you. Sorry, the gentleman there has been waiting a long time.
My name is Takuya Nishimura, freelance journalist. Let me ask in Japanese. 日本語で伺います。前の質問と重なるんですが、トランプ大統領が当選してから石破総理ができるだけ早く会うべきだという声が自民党内から出てきたり、個人的関係を築こうとし、それに対してあまり批判が湧き起こらないのは第1期目のトランプ政権の時、安倍政権が非常に良好な関係を築いたという、一種の成婚体験があってのことだと思うんですが、一方で日米の貿易協定では自動車を守って農業を犠牲にしたという評価があったり、安倍政権の当時はアメリカの防衛装備品を随分買いすぎたんじゃないかというその賛否の両論があったりします。安倍政権の評価をですね、まさにお伺いしたいのと、もう一つはこれまでの日米交渉を見てですね、立憲民主党はこの国会で内閣不信任案を提出すべきだとお思いですかということです。
はい。
So I have two questions. My name is Takuya Nishimura. I'm a freelance journalist. So after Trump was elected, I think within the Japanese government, there were people talking about how Prime Minister Ishiba should meet him as soon as possible, should build a personal relationship with him. And I think this kind of attitude came from what happened during Trump's first administration, where Abe was able to build a sort of rapport with him. However, there's also some critical views saying that the trade agreement that was negotiated at the time prioritized cars over Japanese agriculture, that Japan bought too much of US defense equipment. So my first question is if you could give us your evaluation of former Prime Minister Abe. And the second question, 2つ目の質問は今の日米関係を受けての non-confidence. So following in response to the current negotiations between Japan and the US as the CDP, do you believe that there should be a non-confidence resolution submitted in the House of Representatives?
安倍政権の時のこの日米の貿易については確かにいろんな指摘がありましたし、ただ防衛装備を充実するということは必要ですけれども、それが過剰であったのか適正だったのかはこれから検証をしっかりまたしていかなければいけない点だというふうには思います。で、あれが成功したかどうか、先ほど話した通り、約束したその自動車の部分がひっくり返されようとしているので、現在起きていることも含め、安倍さんの時に妥結した交渉が良かったのかどうかは、これからまた現在進行形で評価をしていかなければ検証しなきゃいけないというふうに思います。
So in answer to the first question regarding the trade negotiations that were held under former Prime Minister Abe, so it's still ongoing whether we can decide whether the defense equipment that was bought at the time, there is a need to have a certain amount of defense equipment. Was it too much or was it appropriate? That is something that we are still working out, figuring out. And then going forward with the issue of the cars in the trade agreement, this is also something that is happening in the present tense. What was promised under Prime Minister Abe, this could possibly be completely changed under the current Trump administration. So we will find out now, as the current trade negotiations progress, how to evaluate that.
2つ目の質問何でしたっけ？ 不信任は僕出すべきだと思います。ちょっと代表と意見がずれてしまうのも問題かもしれませんが、野田代表、政治空白作るべきではないというふうには言いましたけれども、これは今までの石破政権の総合的な評価で言えば、これは不信任は出さざるを得ません。で、政治空白ができるって言ってましたけれども、これは、じゃあそれを言ったら、その不信任は出せなくなります、いつでも。僕はずっと外交族ですけど、外交上はいろんなことが起きてます、365日起きてますから、空白を作っちゃいけないっていうんであれば、一切出せません。だけど、出しても大丈夫だっていうのは、それは新たな主犯指名がされるまでは、石破内閣は続くわけで、空白にはなりませんし、で赤澤大臣も選挙強いから別に選挙区にいなくたって、アメリカに行ってもらっても十分戦えると思いますから、これは逆に今のこの国難と言われているわけですから、しっかりと国民に選択を示すためにも、これしっかり不信任は出すということが重要ですし、そのことによって私は政治空白が生まれて、日米交渉が頓挫するということはないというふうに断言できます。
Regarding the vote of no confidence, I think this should be done, and this might not be in agreement with the leader of the party, Mr. Noda, who he would worry about creating a power vacuum. But if you're always trying to avoid that situation, then you're never going to be able to submit a vote of no confidence. And so even if a vote of no confidence is submitted, the current Ishiba cabinet will continue until the new power structure is decided. So it's not going to be a complete vacuum. And Minister Akazawa is strong, so he can continue with the negotiations, even if something like that were to happen in Japan. So I think the current challenges that the Japanese country is facing, it is important to create an opportunity for the people of Japan to make a decision. And it's not like if we do a vote of no confidence, there's going to be a vacuum of power and it's going to damage the negotiations, the trade negotiations. I think I can say that for sure, that we can do it.
Thank you. I'll take another question online if that's okay, and then Andy. This is from Naomi Fink, who is with Nikko Asset Management, which it actually is close to the question you've just answered. What would you advise as an alternative diplomatic strategy superior to what the Japanese government is doing now? You just said, どうぞ。
日興アセットマネジメントのナオミ・フィンクさんより質問です。今行われている外交戦略にとって変わるより良い外交戦略、代替案みたいな、どのようなものを提案しますか？
外交戦略、日本の外交戦略。
Yes.
とにかく今、トランプさんの倍の交渉ばっかりやっていて、彼はそれを得意とするというふうに言われていますけれども、一つ一つの倍の交渉で積み上げていっても、ジグソーパズルで言えば、歪んだピースがいっぱいできるだけで完成はしませんから、やっぱり多国間でマルチラテラルでやっていかなければいけないと思うんで、これ2国間やりながらも、やっぱり日本は他の国と共同して連携して、多国間での交渉の場にトランプさんをも引きずり出さなきゃいけないというふうに思います。
So I think what we need to do is not completely rely on the bilateral negotiations. If you just keep doing these individual bilateral negotiations between two countries, if you think of it as like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, it's not all going to fit together because they're all just done between two different parts. So what we need to do, I think, is to, while also having those negotiations with the United States, cooperate with other countries and engage in multilateral discussions and bring President Trump to those multilateral discussions. And I think that is what is needed.
トランプさんが交渉が自分は得意だと思ってるんであれば、倍の交渉だけではなくて、マルチの交渉に積極的に参加して、正々堂々と議論すべきだと思います。それができないんであれば、それは単なる臆病者だというふうに思います。
If President Trump believes he is good at negotiating, then he shouldn't only be doing bilateral negotiations. He should come to the multilateral negotiations and stand there and show us his negotiating skills. And if he can't do that, that just means that he is is being cowardly.
Cowardly. Okay, thank you. I thought you were going to say not a very nice man. Andy. Sorry, George. Okay, Andy, then George. Go ahead.
Hi there, thank you for coming. Andy Sharp from Nikkei Asia. First question would be, I mean, looking ahead to the upper house election, would it be beneficial for your party, the CDP, and other opposition parties to take a much stronger stance against what you describe as Trump's bullying? And could this be a vote winner for the party? And the second question is more broadly on global diplomacy for Japan. Quite a few people have pointed out recently that Japan should maybe be moving away from the US and looking closer to places such as Europe, the European Union, places in Southeast Asia such as the Philippines, Australia, etc., more like-minded democracies as potential alliance partners going forward. Your thoughts on that, please. Thank you.
日経アジアのアンディ・シャープです。2点質問がございます。1点目はその参議院選挙に向けて小熊議員ご自身もしくは立憲民主党としてまたは他の野党も含めこのトランプ氏のブリーイングとこの体制に対してより批判的な強い姿勢を示すことは日本での投票票獲得につながると思いますか。で2つ目は外交に関してなんですが、最近言われていることは日本はそのアメリカとの交渉とか外交関係だけでなくもっと他のところとの関係も追求すべきではないか。例えばヨーロッパとかあと東南アジアの他の民主国家、例えばフィリピンとかオーストラリアとか考え方が似ているようなそういったところとの関係を追求すべきではないかということがありますけれども、これについてはどう思いますか。
はい、まず参議院選挙においては、このトランプさんのこの関税政策に批判的な態度というのは当たり前のことだと思いますし、そもそもお米に700% の関税がかかってるとか、車の試験にボーリングの球を使ってるとか、もうこれもう前提として嘘ですから。でこんなことにまともに反応するのも馬鹿らしいぐらいで、もうカルトホラーの世界なので、そういうことに過剰に反応することなく冷静に批判することは国民も当たり前のことだというふうに感じているはずだと思います。そういう意味ではトランプさんに早く冷静になってほしいなというふうには思いますけれども。
Regarding the first question, looking towards the upper house elections, yes, I believe that being critical of the current tariff policy it goes without saying. And you have Trump saying things that are completely untrue, like there's a 700% tariff on rice, or he said something else very untrue about the cars. So to respond genuinely to these kind of ridiculous things it's almost like we're in the world of cult horror. So we need to be calm and rational and critical. And I hope that Trump can also become calm and rational soon.
2番目の質問は大変いい質問だと思います。
The second question is a very good question. Thank you.
その方向で今、日本の外交も積み上げているところでありますし、安倍政権の時に提唱された開かれたインド太平洋構想、ホイップと言われるものは私も評価するところです。
It's a very good question, and I think currently the Japanese diplomacy is working towards that sort of direction, and I think that what was worked on during the former Abe administration, the open India and Pacific relationship known as WHIP, I also think that is something that was quite positive.
そういう意味では安全保障面でも経済面でもまた民間交流の部分でもそのミニラテラルマルチラテラルなこの地域での取り組みはどんどん積み上がっています。
And in this context, I think in terms of security, economy, and also in exchange between the peoples, this kind of multilateral cooperation within the region is something that is being built upon.
だからそういう意味でも今石破総理が東南アジアに 言っているわけでありますから、こうした積み重ねは今までもやってきまして、これからもやっていくことは党派を超えて支えていきたいと思います。
And in this context, you have Prime Minister Ishiba currently visiting Southeast Asia, and this is the sort of thing that we have been building on in the past, and we will continue to, and it is something that I would also like to support beyond the party boundaries.
Quick one, Andy.
Quick follow-up
yeah.
on that. Do you think Japan should have more trust in, for example, Europe right now or the United States?
今日本はヨーロッパかアメリカかで言ったらどちらをより信頼すべきですか？
そういう短絡的な選択は外交上はすべきでないと思います。アメリカの中にもまさに節度ある賢い人たちがいますから、どれかというそういうことが逆に外交を悪くしますので、あらゆるマルチな関係を維持していくということが重要だというふうに思います。
I think we shouldn't focus on oversimplified choices like that. I mean, even within America, there are lots of people with a lot of decency, and to oversimplify things like that is not always good for diplomacy. What we really need to look at is looking at things in a more multifaceted, multilateral way.
我々が分けるべきはエリアとか国の話じゃないです。
So we shouldn't be dividing things up according to country or area.
節度あるものか無軌道なものかは分けるべきだとは思います。
We should be differentiating between what's decent and what is not decent, indecent.
George, sorry to keep you waiting.
My name is Baumgartner. I'm working for Swiss television. When Japanese people look at the way Trump has dumped Europe, has moved so quickly toward Russia, when he's trying to force Ukraine to capitulate, when he's threatening to leave NATO, do you think many Japanese people today still trust Trump for their security? And what about Taiwan? After throwing Ukraine under the bus, maybe Trump might do the same with Taiwan, to throw Taiwan under the bus and make a deal also with China. And what is amazing today in Japan or elsewhere in Europe, except the German new Chancellor, Mr. Merz, who said openly we cannot trust anymore America. In Europe, maybe except the UK, there is no trust left about America, even in Canada. So what is also amazing is to see at the political level in Europe and in Japan elsewhere, the pusillanimity, or do you say, of politicians, pusillanimity.
Aggression, aggressiveness, or
something. You know, they are so timid, politicians. Like even yourself, you are under pressure of our TBS colleague about the U.S. embassy and so on. There is not yet at the political level the frankness to tell people exactly what's going on today.
So the question is, I mean, I think that's why your comments got so much attention, because of what George said. It's quite rare for a Japanese politician to speak with this kind of frankness, or the perception is, right? And in Europe, they seem to be much more aggressive. So the question I heard was, do Japanese people still trust America? Would that be okay? How can they trust them?
Yeah.
And what about Taiwan?
Right.
So
might make a deal with
how can they trust them?
なかなかトランプ氏に対して堂々と大胆な発言ができる人がいないからこそ小熊議員の発言がすごく報道されたと思うんですけれども、今そんな中でヨーロッパとかでもアメリカが
いろいろやっていて、日本でも引き続きどうやったら人々はトランプとかアメリカを信頼し、トランプじゃないですね、アメリカを信頼し続けられるのかどうか、ウクライナがやられたことがまたもしかしたら台湾も同じような対応されるかもしれない。でその安全保障の面でその状況を見ている日本人はどうやったら引き続きアメリカを信頼できるのでしょうか。
アメリカの信頼が大きく日本国民の中で損なわれたというふうには私は感じていません。
I don't feel that the Japanese people's trust of America has been drastically damaged.
トランプ大統領はアメリカの今トップではありますけれども、アメリカそのものではないというふうに日本人は信じています。
President Trump might be at the top of America right now, but the people of Japan believe that he is not equal to America.
アメリカの良識、そして善良な国民のことを日本人は知っていますから、その部分の信頼は揺らがないと思います。
The people of Japan know that the people of America have a common sense, that there is that there, and so the trust between the Japanese people and America as a country still exists.
私だけじゃなく多くの日本人は私の世代であれば大草原の小さな家見てますから、その信頼は揺らがないです。
And many Japanese people, myself included, if they're of my generation, they will have watched the little house on the prairie, and the trust is still there.
I hope you're right. Sorry, we're out of time. Just a really important question. Do you think there'll be a deal? Do you think that Akazawa-san will strike a deal before the July election? It looks like it's going to be quite stressful.
7月の選挙の前に赤澤大臣はディールを取り付けることに成功すると思いますか。最後の質問です。
今、日本政府、赤澤さんが交渉している延長線上っていうのは、私も楽観的には捉えていますけれども、トランプ大統領はトリッキーな人なので、私の外務委員会の質疑でも、答弁に立った岩屋外務大臣は、日替わり定食みたいだって言いましたけれども、明日のことは明日考えなければいけないという、その反射神経だけは持ってなきゃいけないと思います。予測はつかないのは、が正直なところです。
So currently looking at the Japanese government and Minister Akazawa's negotiations, I have a positive perspective on them. However, President Trump is a tricky person to negotiate with, and this was also something that came up during the questions during the committee, but when the Iwaya foreign minister, he likened it to a daily menu that changes every day. So, take today as today, tomorrow is another day. We have to remember this. We have to have quick reflexes because it's going to be very unpredictable.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for your candor. I suppose some of us wish that we were in a movie like Back to the Future where we could go back and change the version of the past, where Bill Tannen is washing our BMW instead of running the world. But this is the world we're in. Trump is in charge. Thank you very much to Shinji Oguma for coming today and agreeing to explain his comments in more detail. And we would hope that he'll come back in a year's time when we see what's going to happen in these trade talks. Yeah, thank you very much. Do show your appreciation.
Appreciate it. Thank you. ありがとうございました。すいません。ありがとうございます。
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. I'm Dan Sloan, president of this organization. Our guest today is leading a Japan-based startup, Sakana AI, which was founded in 2023 by former Google researchers and Mr. Ha. And it is backed by tech investors such as NVIDIA, NEC, Fujitsu, and Japanese financiers, Daiichi Life, MUFJ, and 2 other mega banks. Last August, the company launched AI Scientist, claimed to be the first system to automate scientific discovery. Yesterday, the company introduced its continuous thought machine that uses the synchronization of neuron activity as its core reasoning mechanism. The company's startup value, I think I've got this right, I should have asked, but now exceeds $1.5 billion. But its investors certainly have high expectations. Sakana AI uses an evolutionary model merge method, automatically testing model combinations over generations to identify new choices. Our guest today previously headed the research division of Stability AI in Britain, reportedly has a thing for fish. I didn't ask him about it yet, but we'll find out more. As well as collective intelligence, which hopefully he will find in great abundance today at the FCCJ. He attended Japan's Sushi Tech last week and is working with other startups on issues such as open models and open access, as well as how AI will play a part in aspects of globalization such as trade ahead. Earlier, he earned a PhD from the University of Tokyo, also served as managing director at Goldman Sachs for fixed income trading in Japan. Earlier, in a Bloomberg video about 3 months ago, he called AI the mainframes of this generation, but that next generation models must be 1,000 times faster and more powerful. This will help to rapidly democratize public platforms using such tech prowess. With no further ado, our guest today, Sakana AI CEO, David Ha.
Thanks for the lovely introduction, Dan, and I'm really honored to be invited to give a talk at FCC. I've never been here before, and I don't really have much of an agenda. I was invited to come here, so I prepared a quick 20-minute slide to introduce our company, the current state of what we're doing, and our thoughts about AI, and maybe we can open up for questions later on. So the talk today is called Navigating Japan's AI Landscape. This is our company's name is Sakana AI. It means fish in Japan. So it's I found this domain name around 2 years ago and registered it for maybe Nissan yen. So we captured this name and we made a logo around it. The idea is we wanted to do things a little bit differently from the herd, and we like using ideas like a collective intelligence. What I think is intelligence is not just like one big organism or one big machine, but many small intelligences working together. So that became our logo. I can introduce the 3 of our co-founders. So this company was started by myself, David Ha, my friend and colleague Lion Jones started the company with me as a CTO, and Ren Ito as well. So as a Japanese-based company, I think the 2 of our founders are not Japanese, and one of our founders is a Japanese person. But I'm a long-term resident of Japan. I lived here for more than 10 years. I arrived in Japan, worked for like a foreign company. I was always working at American companies. That was my regrets. So I never had a chance to really practice Japanese so much. But I first came to Japan to work at Goldman Sachs. I started off as a derivatives trader. So I was trading Japanese government bonds back then. So that was my education into how the Japanese government sort of worked, at least on the financing side. And that gave me some good education into dealing with talking to investors and stakeholders and so on. But around the year 2016, so I had an engineering background, and I kind of wanted to have a career change. So I joined Google Brain in Silicon Valley in Mountain View as a researcher. So I actually moved to California to work there for a few years. I wrote some of the earlier papers in a field that we call generative AI. I worked on high resolution image generation, like new forms of neural networks, getting neural networks to draw things, and also making some of the earlier video generation models back then. And at Google, I had the opportunity to relocate back to Japan. Google was really expanding in the year 2018. They have this big Shibuya Stream Tower. So I asked my boss, Jeff Dean, to let me come back to Japan with my family. And then I was able to start a team here. So on the way, I also obtained a PhD in sciences from the University of Tokyo. We collaborated with several professors at University of Tokyo, and I was quite proud to also finally obtain an education degree from a Japanese institution. So my co-founder, Lion Jones, he was one of my friends, and he internally also transferred to the Japan office. So luckily, he was able to get to Japan one day before the border shut due to COVID. And his claim to fame was he was a co-inventor of the transformer architecture, the T in ChatGPT. He wrote this paper called Attention is All You Need. But he worked on many other projects internally at Google on scaling up language models. He also worked at the YouTube division, worked on video processing and the like. So generally a really good technologist. And my third co-founder, Ren Ito, he is the background is also from the University of Tokyo, but I guess he didn't study the STEM subject. He studied law. And after obtaining his law degree, he worked in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan, did that for a while, traveled, worked on diplomacy, and then eventually joined a company called Mercari as an early employee, and worked there until they IPO'd. And I met him, when I was doing some work for startups after Google at Stability, where he was the COO there, and we had a good connection, and we decided, the three of us, to start this new company. So one of the reasons we wanted to start this company in Japan, well, the main reason is because I'm a long-term resident of Japan, and I wanted to find an excuse to stick around in the country. But we needed to have a real legit reason. So the real reason we had is we think that AI is a really important technology. I think right now everyone's using language models, computer vision models, using analysis, using AI, and we think that such an important technology right now should be developed in Japan, or at least Japan should have the know-how on producing this technology for its own needs. And from what we thought was most of the AI technology is either developed in the US or in China, and there's room for an advanced nation such as Japan to cultivate its own AI ecosystem with strong R&D companies in the AI space. So I tweeted this around 2 years ago, and that was what I set out to do, and we're hopefully doing that. So we wanted to build a world-class AI R&D company in Japan. We didn't want to build a company just copy whatever the US is doing, produce some apps to mimic what other people are doing. We wanted to have a truly world-class AI R&D company with original R&D and original products and services developed in Japan for Japan. So even our company is registered in Minatoku as a kabushiki kaisha, and there's no overseas Delaware corporation or whatever. It's a really a Japanese company. So in our seed stage, we actually got investments from both Silicon Valley investors, Lux Capital and Costa Ventures, but luckily also received investments from partners in Japan such as NTT, KDDI, and Sony. So we started building in Japan. And within a year after the R&D, which I'll talk about later, we're fortunate enough to also get NVIDIA as a partner and a strategic investor into our company with NEA, another top Silicon Valley VC. So from there, we were able to secure the backing of several large Japanese corporations as strategic investors. So the mega banks, the insurance companies, the trading houses, and so on. And my thinking is getting the large Japanese companies to invest as strategic investors allows us to work closer with them to deploy AI technology. And I'll talk more about that later on as well. So many people ask, why do you start a company in Japan? What are the advantages of starting an AI company in Japan? And I can name 3 main advantages. As I mentioned earlier, we identified a country company fit. So people talk about product market fit, and we think that there's room for a leading AI R&D company in Japan, and that was one of our hypotheses. And it turns out to be kind of true. Like we were able to develop great R&D and also build a brand within the first year in Japan. We're lucky enough to be featured on like the NHK, Asahi Shimbun, and Nikkei Forum, and also the WBS. So that really helped create a national brand for the AI company. Second reason is we received support from the Japanese government. They were quite generous in a program called the GENIAC, which was organized by METI. And they were offering basically free computes for startups because GPUs are quite expensive to run experiments. And we applied for this grant, and we received like 256 H100 NVIDIA GPUs for a few months to do our initial research. So that was really generous of this METI-run project called GENIAC. We actually won that award. So with our R&D, with the NEDO GENIAC, we received the Innovation Award there. And the last reason I can say is being in Japan, we can really attract the best global talents. I think, as we all know, Japan is a top tourist destination. People like to visit the country, and I'm sure many people would like the chance to live here. And if they can work at a great company doing innovative work, then they would. So we attract many of the top PhD students from all over the world applying to become researchers as Sakana AI. If you look, as of date, we have around, more than 2,000 job applicants. Usually people just apply on the Google Forms on our careers website. And around 1/3 of the job applicants are based in Japan. They could be Japanese, or they could be people like me living in Japan. And we also have many people applying from the US, and those folks could either be Americans, or some of them are actually Japanese people who studied abroad and willing to, and just seeing this as a chance to come back. So we see a good mix, diverse applications. So these 3 reasons really help our company grow. And I will quickly just want to talk about this current state of the company. Our company is known for an R&D company. You mentioned many of our research work, so I can talk about it. But our company also is a for-profit company, and we need to make money to keep the lights on. So I will also talk about our go-to-market efforts as well. So for our R&D theme, unlike many Silicon Valley companies, where the general model is to raise funds and then devote most of those funds into computing machinery, like the GPUs or TPUs to train the next large model. I think that's extremely capital intensive. Our R&D strategically is to take a more balanced approach. Rather than spending huge sums of money on compute, we want to invest in innovation to make things work more efficiently. So, some of my earlier works, I did with my collaborator and now colleague Eugene Tang, is looking at inspiration from natural systems. Right now we're building these large LLMs, like large engineering projects, large bridges. But like in natural systems, or even our own intelligence, is a lot more, agile, flexible, and adaptive. Just like how the image of the ants making a bridge. It might not be strong as a normal bridge, but it's a lot more efficient and agile. And those are the kind of the foundation that we want to build our R&D. This is actually a slide from my original pitch deck from 2023. We were pitching about making the idea of having small AI models produce better AI models, like something like an AI that produces AI. And this is a really ugly slide from my 2023 pitch deck. The idea is, okay, you have already many existing models out there. why create yet another one? Try to build on top of existing models, find ways to merge them together, and use this collective intelligence of existing models to automate the development of new models. So that was kind of the idea of what we set out to do. And this is a graphic that was produced by Nikkei that kind of summarized what they thought we're doing. We're creating using many small models and having them work together. So one of our first research outputs, which Dan kindly mentioned earlier, is a technology called using an AI algorithm, evolution algorithm, to combine different models, to merge different existing models together. So we're really the first to be able to develop the technology to use an evolution algorithm and AI model to take existing models that would then produce new state-of-the-art models with capabilities defined from by the user. So if we wanted to have a Japanese language model that can also do reasoning and math, we're able to put that in the parameters of our optimization and get the intended result. So this was one of the first works that was well known at the company, but I can talk about other works as well. So my view is, recently I talked about this work in Sushi Tech. Our company created a state-of-the-art small language model. This model, we call it small now, but it's actually like close to 2 billion parameters. And this model is a model that works inside of a phone. It has the capabilities similar to a model that's like 50 times bigger than it. And we really want to use this as a platform for developing small AI that would work for personalized tasks. And the question is like, why do this? Why should we do this kind of technology when everyone else is building bigger and bigger models? So as Dan mentioned earlier, my view is like technology always improves in efficiency. And when we look at the first computers that fit in the entire room, the ENIAC, and now that computers are the size of a phone, my view is similar for these AI LLM models. I think the current LLMs are the mainframes of our generation. Every year, things are going to get like an order of magnitude more faster in terms of performance and energy usage. And within, I think like within 3 to 5 years, the same capabilities of our frontier models today, like the GPT models, are going to fit like on the palm of our hands. Like that's basically my hypothesis. And I want to position ourselves to develop technology that would work, like when we have a personalized AI. And by developing a small model like this, it really helps us, clarify, what is importance. I think, if many of us start using AI every day, we may want to tell our language models our most intimate secrets that we won't even tell our closest friends. Like, you don't want that information to be prompted and sent overseas to an external, model. You want everything ideally to be air-gapped inside your phone. So we wanted this model to run completely locally on device without sending any API calls, because it's so small that and capable, it can actually run agentic tasks. It can use the customized data inside the phone, the private data, to perform tasks within the phone. So we want to develop those kind of technologies as well. Also useful for developing the characters for online, offline games as well. So this is one of our small models that we released called Tiny Swallow. Another kind of fun project we released, which is related to Japan, is we created an Edo period chatbot. So this chatbot is called Kalamaru, and is trained by my collaborator Tarin Kranuwa, who actually has a PhD in the pre-modern Japanese literature and became a machine learning scientist. It was a really fun project done in collaboration with the National Museum of Japanese History and the National Institute of Japanese Literature, where they provided us with really high quality data to train this model. The original intention is to actually, we're helping them transcribe many of these books into their archive, which has not been digitized. And we noticed that with the aid of an LLM, you can actually have a higher accuracy when performing those transcriptions. So we wanted to develop a language model that can handle pre-modern Japanese data. But what we found in the process of training this is it's actually a really fun chatbot to use. Like if you chat with it, it speaks like a samurai. So we thought, okay, why don't we release this also as a chatbot? And it was a fun project that trained on a few thousand books from the 17th and 19th century, and people can play around with it. And the last project and the R&D that I want to talk about is something called the AI Scientists. We released the first version of it last year. That became quite popular all over the world. It was also featured in Nature magazine. It's the first system that uses an agentic technology that sits on top of several different LLMs for producing new scientific ideas. As we know, the LLMs today, they can hallucinate, they can come up with stuff. Some stuff might not be true, but some stuff could be true. But I think the idea of hallucination is a bug, but also a feature. If we ask these LLMs to come up with scientific hypotheses and we're able to test them, we're able to actually automate part of the scientific process in discovery. And that's what we did. We set about creating a system of agents to produce new scientific ideas. We're able to produce entire papers on its own. And recently, our system, the version 2 of our system, produced a paper that went through an actual human scientific review process at a top AI conference called iClear and one of the workshop tracks, and got accepted at one of the workshop tracks. So that was quite an accomplishment for our company. I'll quickly talk about, that's the R&D part. I'll quickly talk about what our company does to earn revenue and make money. So our company, rather than being a consumer-facing company, rather than making apps for millions of customers, we really focus on the enterprise and the public sector. In particular, in the private sector, in the enterprise side, we're really focusing on working with a small number of Japanese companies, many of whom are investors, to deliver AI solutions for improving the efficiencies of workflows. I think in Japan, there's also like labor shortages where we're facing, we either have more immigrants in Japan or have more new grads. But in general, I think there's a push for workflows or the I would say the productivity to increase. And I think like AI or in technology in general can and should be used to increase the productivity of companies, in particular in Japan, so that they can have a higher advantage globally. So I cannot really announce much about the specifics of our engagement with the enterprise, but we are working with many enterprise customers to deliver agentic AI solutions to help improve workflows. So that's the first step on the private sector enterprise side. I think we also have a more ambitious dreams or more ambition on the public sector side, because I think Japan is just not just Japanese companies, but the governments and even in the defense sector. And what I know is like now in the era now we're entering a phase of deglobalization, especially this year with the new U.S. administration. I think that it's also going to accelerate the trend. And Japan is a leading democracy in Asia, but it is facing many, adversaries around its neighbors, and it needs to upgrade its infrastructure, defense capabilities, and so on. And I think we also make efforts to engage with government in Japan to also work towards projects such as defense related projects in Japan. So earlier this year, just 2 months ago, our company participated in a high-profile defense tech competition that was co-organized by the Department of Defense in the U.S. in conjunction with the Ministry of Defense in Japan, the ATLA. And we received one of the awards at this defense competition. this competition, I found it very interesting. Around 60 companies participated in it, but most of those companies are foreign companies. They're based in the US, UK, Canada, and there are a few companies based in Japan, but I think like compared to US, like not many startups in Japan want to work in defense side in the governments, and I think I also see that as an opportunity for our company to engage with the governments on developing defense-related solutions using AI. And personally, I think in Japan, like defense is defense, so I'm actually morally aligned to work on the defense sector in Japan. I can talk about quickly about what we propose. There's 2 tracks on this award. There's a track about biosecurity. What we develop is an agent-based model, to predict the spread of a virus like COVID, should there be another bio attack from an adversary. And we show that by using these LLM-controlled agents at scale, it achieves higher accuracy in producing the spread of viruses in Tokyo compared to previous methods that were used. We also participated in a disinformation track because the government in general is this is a big problem for cyber attacks. People spreading fake information, especially from fake images online on social media. So we propose a system that really tailors detection algorithm, state-of-the-art algorithm on training on particular types of image that are of concern, for cyber attacks. In Japan, in particular, the concern is images of fake natural disasters, because Japan is a country of many earthquakes. They have a tsunami, also a volcano, and so on. So they don't want many fake images on Twitter, that prop up, and also for propaganda from other governments. So we develop a state-of-the-art system to be able to predict and identify fake images that were generated using an AI algorithm and distinguish them from real photographs. And we also presented this at an organization, at a meeting organized by METI when the NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte came to visit Japan, and we were able to luckily meet him with 8 other startups to present our solutions. So that's just to give a flavor about our co-founders, why we started this company, some of our R&D, and to convey our go-to-market strategy on both the enterprise and the public sector. So sorry if that went a bit over time.
That was
that's my talk.
Absolutely fine, David. Thank you. He, in earlier remarks before we began, he mentioned that there's intent or hope that you'll be bringing something to market this year, and I'm sure you'll talk more about that during the course of the next 30 minutes. In my introduction, I should have said that we are live streaming this event, and it will be archived as well on our YouTube channel. Some of the questions from Working Press have already come in from people who are watching online. However, we're going to open the floor now to our Working Press. As always, please identify yourself, your organization. Because we have a rather large crowd today, please try to limit yourself to 1 question if possible, and no speeches. Will, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for coming today. My name's Will Fee. I'm the lead writer of the Good series, which looks at digital innovations in Japan, and I'm a contributing writer for Nikkei Asia on digital issues. The valuation of 1.5 billion, you were the fastest company in Japanese history to reach unicorn status. Obviously, there's quite a big discussion globally if the AI industry is in a bubble at the moment. I was wondering if you could share your thoughts on how helpful these kind of huge valuations across the industry are for founders looking to develop commercializable products. Thank you.
That's a good question. I mean, for you're talking about the Series A, valuation, and I think what happened when we set out to raise our seed round, we developed the core technologies, to show that we're capable of developing, the new types of approaches for AI. And when it comes to the Series A, last year, luckily, it was a competitive market for VCs. So it was not us setting the valuation. Like we were like, okay, we're open to receive valuations, and it's a competitive bidding from the venture capitalists, and we're very fortunate enough to be able to get a valuation that was on a unicorn scale. But to me, honestly speaking, like this valuation is not real. It's a funny money. Like what's real is the funds that we raise, and we want to make a company that makes best use of those funds to attract the best talents, to build the best R&D. And I think the question is, like, what's the best use of those funds? Like, forget about the valuation. Maybe some companies that are also unicorn may have raised hundreds of millions. And I think I made this point earlier in my talk. Many companies, especially in the AI industry, because they raise such large funds, they may deploy those funds to train the next generation of models. And I think that may push the state of the art for the technology. But my observation is many of those models go out of dates. Like after 3 to 6 months, they're like the fastest depreciating assets in human history. So I would prefer to spend my funds, with more strategically. And I think you asked the questions whether this is healthy or not. I think it depends on how we approach it. If I plan on spending these funds very diligently to build in the words of Paul Graham, he has an essay called Default Alive. If we build a default alive startup, then sure, if we can raise a large sum of money from top venture capitalists, and build a business plan, have a longer runway, then I think that's good for our company. But for companies who are raising money and forced to quickly deploy that to train yet another large model, this could very well be in a bubble. And if the bubble eventually collapses, we don't know when, then they will not be able to raise another valuation, another round at a higher valuation, and that presents several challenges. So I think it depends on the strategy of using these funds. Thank you.
It sounds like a man who used to trade JGBs. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, sir.
It's all about the coupons.
All right. Yes, Don.
Yeah, hi, I'm Doug Montgomery with Global Connects Media. So you said something very interesting at the beginning. You chose to be in Japan, right? You could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here. What are the limitations of starting your company in Japan and going after this, kind of hole in the Japanese market that you mentioned that you saw? What are the limitations, the downside?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a good, I guess, choice to come here. But actually, the story is I was recruited by Goldman Sachs to join them. And back then, the head office of Goldman in Asia, the APAC office, was in Tokyo, in Roppongi Hills. So I thought, sure, let's just go to Japan. I thought I would only stay for 2 years, but here I am, more than 10 years in Japan. But I would choose to come to this country as well. And in terms of starting the company here, because I lived here for a while, even though my Japanese is not like fluent, I did pass the N2, JLPT. So I can, not N1, so I did kind of pass, and I can understand, I can go to the ward office, and I can understand government forms. So in terms of registering the company, that wasn't so hard. I go to the registration office, and I register Sakana AI and pay the original fee. I can even set up a bank account on myself. But I could see for like an entrepreneur coming from outside of Japan, they would have to, learn Japanese or find someone who can understand Japanese forms and go through the bureaucracy. But I think that's the same in every country. I think maybe the advantage is English is spoken everywhere. So people in the US, they can open a bank account because they can speak in English. And so there's a lot of stories I read about these days about difficulty in Japan. I think it's mainly about understanding the language and culture here. And I think, the working with Japanese companies is also a challenge because just like many companies in the US, the large companies, there's always, due to their size, more bureaucracy compared to startups. So it is a challenge to gain the trust of partners who are large Japanese companies. But at the same time, it's not like once we do gain that trust, there is a competitive advantage we have as well. So I think it's a different type of challenge, especially in the enterprise market.
I meant more like talent and money and those kind of things. Like, again, if you're in Silicon Valley, in theory, you have access to talent. Of course, salaries are higher. You have access to capital. What about Japan?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I can talk about our company, and I think what we're experiencing is because we're in a very blessed position, might be very different than what other companies are facing here. Because we built the brand for the company, we actually have oversupply of job applicants to our company. If you think about it, say if we want to hire the top AI talents, and most of these are PhD students from top schools globally, I would say that maybe you can roughly, on the back of the envelope, probably 20 to 30% of them wouldn't mind having a career in Asia in general, right? Like, I mean, you go to a conference and there's many Asian researchers. So at least 30%, say, of the top AI graduates will be looking for a job in Asia outside of Silicon Valley. And when people are looking for a job in Asia, the top cities are, maybe Singapore, Seoul, perhaps Hong Kong back in the day, Taiwan, Beijing, Shanghai, and Tokyo. And if someone's willing to work in Seoul or Beijing or Hong Kong, they'll probably be fine working in Tokyo as well. And when those graduates apply for a job here, and they look at the cities, and we're on the map, so we get the flow of the talent who is willing to relocate to Asia, and they're probably applied for a job in Tokyo, and if they want to apply the job for work at Tokyo, they'll probably go to a website to apply to work as Sakana AI. But I think maybe for other companies, they may not be blessed with the branding, but that was our strategy as well, is to build a good brand so that we can attract the talents to go to our Google Forms and upload their resume and so on.
Our next question, I'll come to those in the room. Just from our online audience, Rotaro Sato from the Nikkei Asia. His question is, what is your definition of AGI, artificial general intelligence, and what is the current technological challenges to achieving? What are?
Yeah, I think the term AGI is really popular especially in the West. I think that there's a mindset that's there's this all-powerful machine that will the prevailing definition is the machine that can perform most tasks deemed economically viable that a human can do. That's the definition for several, I guess, large companies in the U.S. I take a more nuanced approach. I think AI is just a technology. Just like cars, when they're developed, they replace, carriages, and TVs replace radio to some extent. And I think that's, our kids growing up would just take it for granted that you can chat with a computer and get answers, and you can ask it to draw something and it gets done. So ultimately, the intelligence that emerges from this new technology will be a combination of how humans use AI. I think it's not going to be AI dominating with some grand general intelligence and replacing all of humanity. The top intelligence will be the combination of how humans use AI, and I think that's just going to increase productivity in the future. So I would say that just another example is the top Go playing intelligence right now is a combination of a Go playing algorithm and a human. And I don't see why that won't be the case for any other task, where it will be a combination of our own human intelligence with a tool on a computer that uses an AI algorithm. So I wouldn't say that there's a AGI thing or not in my book.
All right, thank you. Yes, you may ask.
John Boyd, freelance. You mentioned from a whole series of large language models, you were taking some intelligence and then joining them together to make a specific app, I suppose. What were the challenges of a Japanese startup approaching those companies? Like, fees were involved, I suppose. Did they question what you were going to do? And given that those language models are changing all the time, isn't that a problem for you if you're working on something and then suddenly a whole new generation comes out? Doesn't that put you behind?
Oh, thanks. That's a really good question. So, with regards to the one of our earlier papers called Evolutionary Model Merge, the key idea is rather than train models from scratch, you would use like existing models and find the optimal way to combine different parts of them to develop a new model for a specific application. Now, this particular research output is an academic paper, so it's not like a product we made. And so therefore, most of the ingredients of the existing models are existing open source models out there. So we use existing open source model, and we showed that it's possible to combine different open source models to produce a new type of model. But when we're talking about commercial applications of this technology, as you mentioned, rightly mentioned, it's not as clear cut. Like, models advance all the time. Some of these models are not open source and they're commercial. And if you want to apply this technology to different models and with a commercial license, then we would need to negotiate with the producers of that model to have some sort of like sharing agreements in order to do that. So what we produce, what we publicize is an academic paper to show that this is possible. But of course, if we want to commercialize it, there will be the nuances of commercialization.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Himari Shimans from the Japan Times. Thank you for speaking today. First, I would like to ask, you talked about deglobalization and the increasing importance of AI earlier. Why does Japan need AI more than ever? And what are the risks of falling behind in the context of defense as the US pursues a more unpredictable foreign policy, with US President Donald Trump calling the Japan-US alliance one-sided, while China continues to make advances in technology?
Well, thank you. This is actually a very challenging question. So I'm not a politician, so I don't really have a particular view of Donald Trump and his policy. But I would say that for the first question, why AI is important for Japan, I think it's important for two key reasons. The first is the demographics. I think because as we have a less population, there is a need, for people to, people want to be more productive. You can be productive and achieve more, for yourself, for the company, and also maybe do more with less time, so people can spend time with their families, taking care of their moms and dads or grandparents in Japan. So I think demographics challenge is one that can be not solved by AI, but at least AI can help with making people more productive. And the other reason in Japan is, as you also mentioned, due to the deglobalization. I think technology in general, and AI included, is very important for a country to make its infrastructure more secure and efficient. And this includes how the governments are run, information systems, defense, cybersecurity, and so on. And with all of these areas, especially in defense and cybersecurity, AI is becoming a core part of this technology. So from Japan's point of view, my view is Japan should have its own know-how and capabilities to produce what the AI systems that it needs to run them. But of course, it's a global market, so there's nothing in theory stopping Japan from using vendors outside of Japan, like the US or other countries. But as you say, the US policy does seem to be one that aims to be more US centric. I mean, this is it is what it is. I cannot say whether that's right or wrong. Every country needs to do whatever policy it is in their own interests. And if that's the case, then there is a possibility that AI services, in the future could be a bargaining chip. For countries, if the AI services or AI models are so powerful, maybe that potentially can be a bargaining chip for other countries, whether they can use them or not. And this goes also to the discussion we had earlier about like the alternative is some other countries, like even like China, are embracing like open models. So companies are encouraged to, of course, build their products and services on top of AI. But in general, you have an open model ecosystem that the entire nations can build products on. And I think that can be a good way to counter proprietary models or technology that can be easily restricted in trade. So I wouldn't be able to really comment on my views on Donald Trump and his policy, because that's I guess be above my pay grade.
Thank you. Sorry, one more question, if that's okay. You talked about targeting the public sector, in particular the defense ministry. How might Japan's defense ministry use Sakana AI's defense-related AI applications, and what is the timeline for any possible use? Thank you.
Good question. We're still in the fairly early stage of the public sector. I think, in general, engaging the public sector, especially in an important area of defense, takes years or even decade in order to solidify one's capabilities. What we're doing, especially in this early stage, is having a dialogue with the governments, especially through these defense tech competition. Like the ones that I talked about earlier is the Ministry of Defense wanted solutions for, they told us what they wanted. They wanted solutions for biosecurity, for disinformation, and we tried to produce these for them. And I think by winning these competitions, it allows us to have a deeper dialogue as to, okay, maybe this is not exactly what they want. They have this other problem, and we can kind of like organically have a more fluid dialogue through building these solutions in an agile way.
Okay, our next question comes from our online audience, Rocky Swift of Reuters, who asks, what's the latest that you've been hearing from NVIDIA about global demand for AI chips?
Well, I don't talk to NVIDIA like so much. Like they're our partners. We talk more about our strategic R&D collaboration on how to make the best for NVIDIA chips and how to make models that run the most efficiently on NVIDIA chips. So personally, I don't really get any like inside scoop about the demand for it. But as a private citizen with no specialized knowledge, I do have the view that there's going to be more demand for computes from more on the inference side, like running the models. Like maybe from last year and the year before, most of the demand is folks trying to train large models. But now these models are trained, and people discovered that if you spend more resources on inference, you can actually do things like getting them to reason, getting them to think longer, so to speak. So I think there's going to be more demand on hardware on the inference side for running the models compared to the training side going forward.
Okay. Yes, George.
My name is Baumgartner. I'm working for Swiss Radio and Television. When are you planning to list your company on the stock market? And do you still have research links or collaborations with Google?
That's good. I mean, yeah. When do we IPO? I guess I don't know actually. Yeah, I think I just want to make the company add value to companies in Japan and also work in the public sector. So my goal is to really build a company to be default alive and add value to Japan. And if we're able to add value to with our partners in Japan, then naturally my view is we can make it revenue and profit. And if we're able to have a sustained profit, then maybe IPO can be an option in the future. But I haven't really plan so hard about it. The second question is in terms of collaboration. So our company can collaborate with external researchers outside of Sakana AI. And in fact, we collaborate heavily with academic research labs in not just in Japan with University of Tokyo, Tokyo Institute of Technology, but also with universities like the Oxford and University of British Columbia. And we can also collaborate with other labs in Google as well. I think through such collaborations, like most of the output would be in the form of research papers, academic papers, rather than specific products and so on. But there's nothing stopping us from collaborating with other tech companies as well.
I'm going to take the liberty of asking a question. A couple of months ago, we had a distinguished guest from University of Tokyo, I believe Matsuo-san, who I asked the same question. And subsequent to his speech, I looked into what kind of, how is journalism as a vocation, as an industry, embracing AI? And according to some models, 50 up to 70% of journalistic or media units do use AI in some facet, but most don't. 25% or less actually have kind of a formal training or kind of a structure for how they are adopting AI. I want you to crystal ball, if you can, and think of it in terms of what Sakana AI can do right now and what might the future bring. How do you see it potentially impacting journalism or the kind of information or computing prowess that people could get on any mobile platform?
Cool. Well, that's a good question, and it's a difficult one because I don't have a background in journalism. But my view is, like, personally, I deeply respect journalists. I think journalism is very important to find out what is true. And especially in this day and age of all this like news, all this noise on social media, it's very important as a profession for the population to understand what is like true, or to what degrees of truthfulness is there, and like finding out what is a fact, and that's something that's fundamentally very important in my view. And if we talk about AI, I view it as another technology that a journalist could use to make his or her job more efficient or satisfying. Just like maybe the old school journalists did not use a word processor, and now journalists use a word processor and so on. So I would say that like many journalists, friends of mine, might use a language model to do grammar checking, to figure out another way to write a sentence. That's fine, but maybe you have old school researchers that don't need to do that. They have a better, they like their writing style more than ChatGPT's, then they should continue to use it. So I would just say it's a tool, just like search. Now you have Google. Now you have these AI can also help analyze data. And I think ultimately though, you do need a human in the loop to make the final decision. And whatever is written, the responsibility, the ownership of what's written should be by the news organization.
Well, you put a lot of people at rest about their job future, so that's good. No, and the other thing, it sounded like, similar to your other answers, utilization is good, reliance is perhaps a risk. It might be a danger, particularly for journalism.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like it's like AI is good at writing, is good at like conveying a narrative, whatever you wanted to convey, and if those tools can make a journalist more productive, then great. But ultimately though, when the AI, unless we're at the stage where the AI can be in a robot's, like a humanoid robot, and going out to the world to feel things, to see actual events in order to determine what is true or not, you still need a human to figure out, to look at the world, to figure out what is true or not. So I think that cannot be replaced.
All right, thank you very much. We got time for one more question. Perhaps someone who hasn't asked a question yet. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is Takuya Nishimura, freelance journalist. Japan shares no border with other countries on the land. I believe the biggest enemy for Japan is natural disaster. So how do you think the AI can work for preventing the natural disaster called Nankai Trough, great earthquake? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Actually, I think AI in particular, machine learning models, have shown to be quite useful in improving the accuracy of like the weather prediction, earthquake modeling, and volcano modeling. So there has been several works on those areas, applying some of the latest data-driven algorithms on that. And this is, I think, is a very important area. In fact, someone actually used the AI scientist that we released recently. There's an academic, there's a gentleman who was at Aoyama Gakuen University, and they used the AI scientist to develop a new algorithm to more accurately model the occurrence of an earthquake. And so this is actually something that was surprising to me, that somehow the AI scientist package is able to increase the accuracy of existing data. But I think having data more readily available from university institutions and the governments with regards to weather, like an earthquake or like natural disasters, would also encourage the academic community and the research community to develop better solutions for these. And I think I'm quite hopeful that the progress will continue on this front.
Do you think prevent the damage?
Yeah. Well, I think at the first stage, prediction is going to be the easiest for machine learning models. If we're able to predict the occurrence of a volcano eruption or earthquake or even a tsunami, like 1 or 2 days before it actually happened, that would allow people to flee or to evacuate. More importantly, and of course, for disaster recovery, that's another problem. Just in general, technology should be able to help. But I think the main application, the easiest one, would be the detection, in my view.
Okay, we're coming up on time right now. David, we want to thank you very much for your time and comments today. As we do with all of our guest speakers, we are offering you a 1-year honorary membership. Now that you are deeply embedded in the Tokyo community, we hope you come to the club and utilize this and lead this organization, nearly 80 years old, to greater AI sophistication in everything we do. So thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dan. I'm definitely going to come by a lot.
All right, great. All right. Thank you.